check out Nightmare Toys for all your horror collectible needs at nightmaretoys.com.
Hi, I'm Bill Mosley, and you're in the horror basement with Jim Jam and Johnny Leroy. Lick my plate, you dog dick.
Hey guys, just so you know, at the Full Moon Cineplex, Friday, March 9th and Saturday, March 10th, the 1978 40th anniversary of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, along with American Haunting, will be shown. Go check it out.
FullMoonCineplex.com.
Hey everyone, this is Luce Allen, and I'm back with a new review. It's for the movie House of Salem, which is a home invasion thriller with a paranormal twist. You can read about it on TN Horror News website and see why I give it a rotten zombie thumbs up.
The Horror Basement, the Tennessee Horror News Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny Leroy. As always, we got Jim Jam here with us.
Jim Jam here.
All right, guys, so we're back. We went to ConNooga.
Yep.
That was last couple weekends ago.
Yeah.
Had a great time. Met a lot of great people. Definitely check that out if you ever get a chance.
We got a walkthrough my son recorded as I was walking through his Leatherface.
Yep, go check that out on the YouTube channel. Tennessee Horror News, huh?
TN Horror News on YouTube.
Yeah.
Who we got today?
Sam Fell.
Sam Fell, sound engineer for Chicago Rock.
Yeah, we got to meet all them guys, and if you hit up the Facebook page, you'll see the pictures that we got with them. Did I send you a picture of me with them?
I think so.
I think I shared it. It's on my page, but yeah, I'm not friends with a lot of people because I know a lot of people.
Will I add Johnny?
No, don't. Don't.
But yeah.
That's mean, ain't it? Add me on Twitter.
Yeah, add him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Johnny Leroy.
Yeah, Johnny Leroy. At Johnny Leroy. At Jim Jam. This is Jim Jam.
TN Horror or something like that.
Yeah, TNH, TN Horror.
Yeah.
He got a fucking confusing one. You don't even know what I'm
saying. This is TN Jim Jam or something.
Yeah, this is TN Jim Jam. That's what it is. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. And then, of course, our the whole TN Horror News Twitter. We've got Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, it's all TN.
Facebook group.
It's all TN Horror News.
Yeah.
So
we also have a new social media platform out, Vero. We're on there as well.
That's new. It took me years to get to this one. So
Johnny's probably not getting fucked with that. But apparently after the first million, though, they're making people pay. So if you didn't get in the first million,
yeah, I will not be part of that.
So that'll probably be 1 million people, and that's it.
Yeah,
because I don't believe no one's going to pay.
No, because it's social media. Who pays for it?
Yeah.
Besides the people that buy their fucking followers.
I think it's pretty cool that Tennessee Horror News is one of that million.
Yeah.
That has. Hey, we also have MySpace. We don't use it, but we have one.
Yeah, MySpace. Hey, it's going to come back, man.
Yeah, Justin Timberlake's going to bring it back.
Yeah, I guess.
But
he brought Brexit back. Also, could possibly be some big news with the Death House movie.
Premiere. It comes out March 16th at Opry
20 Opry
Stadium. A crazy name, but yeah, it's out at Opry Mills. I think
Regal Opry 20.
Yeah,
is what. It's at Opry Mills.
We're going to definitely be there regardless, but there might be some extra things.
Yes, some really cool extra things. So
that's
why you need to follow us on social media.
Yeah, you definitely want to show up because something could happen where, you just have to show up and find out.
I would just say,
well,
my thing is I hope you should have a Death House shirt.
Yeah, that's one thing me and Johnny got. We ordered
that could be a good thing if you have a Death House shirt and we notice it. You might get something. Maybe. We're not 100%
How about
sure.
this? If you rocking a Death House shirt, you get entered in for a possible chance to win something.
Yeah. But if you're the only one wearing the Death House shirt,
guess what?
You get it, baby.
Hey, does that mean if we're the only ones there, we get it?
No, that does not mean that. That's family and friends are not entered into this contest. That would be fucked up.
I hope we're not the only two wearing a shirt there.
We probably will be.
Somehow.
I mean, I hope not. But this is Deadhouse with all the freaking stars in it has had to have stretched to other people have to know. Like we've been talking about it for fucking 2 years.
Harrison Smith even went on to say that he will be willing to come on and do a Q&A after the movie, but fortunately the theater said that they can't do it in that theater because there's no way that they can just go up there and turn on the projector and we can plug our laptop in. Which I was like, it's probably $100,000. Why can't it have an HDMI hookup?
I would probably do this.
They're just probably being douches.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to do that.
But yeah, and then he was like, you have to call corporate and rent out a room or something. I'm like, unless Death House wants to rent out a room, I'm not renting one out.
No, yeah.
Maybe we could stand on the sidewalk with our phones and.
No, that's what I was thinking. Like, just have him call in, and if we could get like a speaker to hook up to the phone.
I got it. I got
like
a little
Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah, I got one.
And maybe hook it up, and then
anybody that wants to sit out there and talk with Harrison after.
Yeah, just tell him what you think about the movie. I mean, that's a possibility. Nothing's written in stone yet, but we're just letting you know that there's a good chance for some giveaways or a giveaway, and we'll follow us, TN Horror News, on all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yes, that's the best way.
And B-roll.
So yeah, I guess
let's get into this interview.
Away
we go. On today's podcast, we have Sam Fell, sound engineer for Chicago Rock. Hey, Sam, how's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate you coming on. As you know, we talked to you at ConNooga, and we really enjoyed the movie.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And the music in the movie, and just everything about the movie was really good. How much of influence did you have in the music?
To be fair, quite a bit of it was done by Brant McCrae, as well as Joe Scott and Gub Conway and Jim Kimball. Those guys were the real musicians to it. I kind of took on a little bit more of a producer role, and a little bit more of the traditional producer role sense, not necessarily what people consider producers these days, which, are making the beats or something like that. I had a lot more to do with kind of the behind the scenes in terms of getting everything set up, booking people, making sure that the whole production kept moving. I did a little bit of arrangement with Brant, taking some liberties when we started applying a lot of his music into to picture and combining that with the dialogue and some of the other sound effects. Sometimes you kind of have to do some wiggling. Most notably, I think there's one scene that kind of strikes me where Alex comes to the Lido for the first time, and it's actually a little bit of a blend from one of her big monologues, and we then come back into Les, and he's there sleeping on the chair, and there's a bit of a musical piece that was kind of just a little segue that Brant had created, and it kind of got misplaced at first, and it was actually starting a little too late for where Brant had originally placed it. But I was like, hey, this kind of has a cool effect to it. Let's, so I asked him for a few elements that he had, like a kick drum and stuff, and this sort of synth swell, and we kind of built it out a little bit more. So that's probably the most extent that I took in terms of sort of arrangement or creativity with the music. But primarily I was just there to record it, mix it, and make it sound as best as we could with the limited materials that we had to work with.
When you speak of limited materials, like, did you have to use like unusual objects to make sounds? Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, of course. A lot of times when you're dealing with like Foley and stuff like that, where you're trying to recreate a sound that you see on screen, well, you can't really go and cut a guy's tongue off or stab somebody in the gut. So you try finding some everyday sounds or things that you do every day and trying to apply that. A lot of times you want to go to the actual source itself. You know, say if somebody's using some scissors to cut some paper, a lot of times you'll want to go and actually do that action itself, but when you record it, it doesn't really come off the way that you want it to hear or be believable. Sometimes you have to kind of embellish it. So we did have one day where I had several people come over to the rot shop, and everyone brought some produce, and we just started smashing it and stabbing it and recording it. We even had a burger and some ketchup, for when we were doing the burger scene with detective, and he just has some ketchup splash onto his shoe. We went through a whole bunch of things, even down to trying to use ketchup, but it turned out to be that using some other sort of goopy mess that we were also using for most of our gut kills was was what we needed for it. So yeah, a lot of times you just try and find and think of things that you hear of. It's a whole different way of thinking about how to achieve something. You start using your memory as to how things sound when you're trying to go for a specific action.
Well, how would you know what it sounds like to stab somebody in the gut? Sam, I'm kind of worried now, man. I mean,
yeah, I think a lot of that's just perceived imagination.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think a lot of the times it's an embellishment. Shooting a gun too. It's not the way that it normally sounds. When you actually record a gun, it sounds a little bit more of like a pop or something.
Yeah.
But you want it to be impactful and powerful, so you just start embellishing it and putting some undertones, doing some pitch shifting to make it sound a little bit more heavy or impactful. So it's, you're kind of lying to the audience in some ways because you want them to believe it or to feel it. So it's hard to say where, somebody said, yeah, stab this lettuce with a knife, and that's exactly the way it sounds. I'm sure, being stabbed actually doesn't actually have a sound to it other than somebody wincing in pain, but it's all about, putting a little bit more of that extreme element to it.
So you stabbed lettuce?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it sounded like that's what the sound effect was, lettuce being stabbed? Because I cut lettuce, and it's kind of squeaky. You know what I'm saying? Like where you get lettuce and it's like, you don't cut lettuce, Jim. You don't eat fucking lettuce. So.
Damn rabbit food.
Well, you might be thinking more of cabbage. So, we went through a different couple, we got some cabbage, we got red cabbage, green cabbage, we went to the produce section and got more than just a couple things, even like loose leaf lettuce to see how that would sound.
Yeah, they wasn't going to get no meat because meat too expensive, and they're like, hell, we're going to eat this instead.
Yeah, it doesn't have too much of a sound other than maybe a slapping sound you can use with it. But yeah, actually, one way in order to get kind of like a hitting sound or sort of a scuffling sound is actually putting some boots in like a pillow bag. One of our sound engineers, Kyle Olson, who assisted me with a lot of the sound design for the later half of this, we have this one funny experience where he brought in some a sound file, and it was of him throwing his own self onto the ground trying to come up with a lot of these scuffle sounds. And there was one point where he was really hurting himself just throwing his body against the ground, that he there was one point where he was just like, oh, and all of a sudden he throws himself down on the ground, and there was actually like this tiny, he knocked the wind out of himself, and there was like this tiny little fart that came out, which we then actually took and snuck in there for the scene where Alex punches the detective Dave Simmons in the gut. We snuck in a tiny little fart. You can't really perceive it because we didn't want it to be too noticeable and take you out of the moment, but we're just like he could totally have that happen just to be a little
that can happen though. You get hit in the gut and you release
oh yeah, for sure. And we wanted to be a little bit humiliating, it's not a very manly moment. Here he is getting owned by this woman who perceivably has larger testicles than him, And so, yeah, that was kind of one of the elements that we wanted to sneak in there. At first, we were kind of a little bit, we were keeping hush hush because we didn't want Dorian or anybody to, get the wrong idea that, you kind of have to hear it. And, when you're talking about sound, a lot of times you start putting out ideas, and sometimes some people, it's kind of easy to kind of get the wrong idea because people hear different things. So when you start actually putting it together, you perceive it differently than versus saying, hey, we want to put in a little fart, and all of a sudden you're like, well, what sort of direction are you going with this? Like, I don't want it to be too clowny. And next thing you know, when we had to print out all of our deliverables for the final exporting of the film so it can be overdubbed with other languages, you're then isolating the music tracks and all the effects tracks and the dialogue tracks. So now some things are becoming a little bit more noticeable since they're not blending together anymore. And Dorian's like, hey, did you sneak a fart in there? We're like, maybe. So possibly if it's dubbed in something else, we're going to have a little bit more of a different effect since it's probably not going to be blended so much. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, when dealing with Foley and such, there is a lot of research to be done. There's a lot of great information out there on the internet, and also working with about a dozen other people with this project. This wasn't necessarily just all me. I did a lot of the initial sound design and assigned people to do things. I had about, in the beginning, close to about 10 people who were editing certain scenes, for dialogue primarily. So in the beginning, we were able to utilize the school that we went to and recruit some eager sound designers and editors to come help us out for a while. But with any sort of independent production, time is a killer, and so we also had a big re-edit that by the time we were coming back to it, a lot of people had to move on and do some other things. So, in the beginning, I had some really great help being able to kind of do a lot of the grunt work, assembling and cleaning up a lot of the dialogue, which I'm very grateful for.
So, besides Chicago Rut, I know you were actually working on an album or something for it, aren't you?
Yeah, so, this project, it was quite an undertaking because, here it is, it's a full-length feature film. You got about an hour and 43 minutes of dialogue and sound design. On top of it, we're looking at something pretty close to like a double album in terms of original music that was made for it. And so with this, we're actually just in our final stages here with mastering the album of the Hubcap Men. So a lot of this music is what we have featured with Jim Kimball on drums, Scott Conway and Joe Scott on guitars. Brant plays some synths, and then we also have Rachel Morgan, who was Calamity Jane. She was the one who you see playing the piano and doing a lot of singing. So that's primarily going to be about, I think, 17 songs that we have being mastered over at Gravity Studios by Doug McBride. So pretty soon we're going to be releasing that, and that will be available on like iTunes and Spotify. We're also going to be selling a few actual physical copies too through Amazon and possibly through our own website. We're just kind of finalizing all of that. So it's been one heck of an undertaking because on top of it, we have then about 20 or so other musical score pieces too that maybe at some later point we'll consider releasing too. But yeah, to consider all things considered, yeah, an hour and 40 minutes worth of film time in terms of dialogue, and then about 30 plus musical pieces then that Kyle and I had to mix down and fit with everything that was going on.
Yeah, no, I wish I'd have picked up a copy of, bought a copy off y'all while y'all was there of Chicago Rot.
Fortunately, on our website, we do have all the proper avenues to be able to pick up a DVD. I believe Amazon too sells physical DVDs, but also on iTunes or Google Play, Amazon. There's a lot of places to stream it, and all of that information is on our website, chicagorot.com.
Yeah, $14.95 on Amazon.
Yeah, people definitely need to go check it out. I tell everybody about it. Like, hey, if you get a chance, anybody that I know that enjoys, horror music and everything, I'm like, if you get a chance, you need to check this movie out. It's really good.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's definitely something different. I think that's something that we try and tell everyone. It's like, this is something you've never really, seen. It's a lot of things packed into one. We like to joke and say, there's something in there for everyone, and there's definitely something in there that's not for everyone. That was kind of the one of the main things as we started filming and kind of getting into the second half of filming. How are we going to market this film, because it is so many different genres and so many things that we love to see in a movie, and we felt like horror was kind of this malleable genre that was a lot more forgiving and open-ended, and especially with fans. All of us were, easily horror genre fans, but we certainly like a whole lot of other things too. Because there is some sci-fi nature to it, once you kind of get into the second half of the film. That, when we first initially were promoting this film with our first trailer, it didn't mention a thing about it. So when people came and saw it, they were like, whoa, had no idea that this was a whole nother element going into it. We just felt by saying, calling this thing, I like to call it a supernatural rock and roll horror thriller. But we also kind of have to pump the brakes on the horror, because people initially think, oh, it's one of those jump out and scare you, cheap sort of scare type movies. But it's really only horror just from its gory aspect and its dark sort of tones. But we felt, calling it a sci-fi movie too, we don't get into the sci-fi elements till much later, so we felt like that might do kind of a disservice to the sci-fi audience, not getting to the good stuff right away. I don't know. It was one that we really kind of stewed about for quite some time, and felt like, horror was a good sort of basket to be sort of genre to be put into that could allow for us to branch off in these different ideas.
Yeah, it definitely has the whole horror aspect with the gore, and it's got some almost, I guess, comedic kind of stuff too, especially when he goes and uses a fucking dildo.
Yeah, a lot of it's, very much in your face. And there are some parts, at least us as filmmakers, you get so tied into it that, maybe a lot of the jokes start, you're like, is this just an inside joke between us because we think this is great? And, one scene that we always kind of laugh about is, during that what we like to call the gut fuck scene with Lou, is when we actually brought Paul Burrell, who's the actor who plays Lou. We brought him into the Rot Shop, about a year or so later, to come and do some overdubs, some ADR of him taped up. We needed him sort of grunting and screaming and, pleading for his life. Of course, one thing that we kind of then embellished too, once again, is him being able to, him talk or sort of trying to reason with the ghoul with Les as he's taping his mouth up. That was something where we're like, hey, you really shouldn't be able to talk right now, but we kind of love what he said. There's some things that if you go back and listen to what he's pleading about, it's just a guy with a couple girls just trying to have a little lunch. He just thought it was the most bizarre thing that Paul he was kind of winging in this makeshift sort of sound booth that we made, and we just thought it was just so bizarre and just so raw and vile, all things considered, what the situation is, that it was just something that got us every time that we had to leave in there, even though his mouth is taped up. Here's this little tidbit of dialogue that we thought was kind of funny in such a serious moment.
Yeah.
But that's I think there are some tones to it that it doesn't necessarily get too campy, but there are some genre tropes that I think we still kind of play into while still maintaining a pretty serious tone overall. It's quite the roller coaster ride. By the end of it, you're just like, wow, we just covered a lot of ground. That's how I always feel after watching it.
When I was watching it, I was, this didn't feel like an indie horror to me, or indie film to me, because, well, the practical effects are so well done, especially when we was at ConNooga and we was listening to y'all's panel. Well, I think you was back at the table still, wasn't you?
Yeah.
Well, they were talking about how they made some of the stuff, and I was like, wow, you would have thought this was $1 million, budget or whatever, and then to him tell you what he used to make all this stuff, I was like, wow, that's very
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Props to Brant, Dorian, Ryan Brena, who's our director of photography, Circuit Effects, Ryan Oliver. A lot of these guys really put a lot of effort into it, a lot of their expertise over the years, and a lot of it's a learning process too. So some of this was first for all of us. But yeah, that was the thing where we had this script in the beginning, back in 2010, 2011, when we were just trying to plan this whole thing out in terms of, all right, how do we get some of these permits together? What do we need? What's our budget? How are we going to make it with this non-existent budget? Because, looking at the script, it was $1 million script that you were trying to make for pennies and sweat and tears. And, really the only way to go about it was through practical effects, because even with that final rock battle scene, it takes a lot of manpower and time to, do things computer generated. And we've always all been, a fan of the practical stuff. When you actually get to see it, it has such a different feel to it. When you are doing these practical effects, you have to get it right there, right in the beginning, So when you're shooting this, it's what you see is what you get. When you start dealing then kind of being like, well, we're going to add this in post, it definitely opens the door up for a lot of things, but it also opens up the door for a lot of things to not kind of be cohesive. You always see if somebody has something in their hand or they're supposed to be interacting with it, you can see this sort of fake area that they're pretending to pet something, that's in their hand, that the actor's doing their best to try and interact with, but it's not there. So I think that's what really lent to the overall vibe, sort of that believability, is that we just did our homework and we did a lot of test shooting, a lot of reshooting of some of these practical effects. Certainly a lot of these. There's a few of the practical effects, including the gut fuck scene and the head smash of the berserker that we shot more than once because we just weren't getting the result that we were looking for. Either the practical effect contraption didn't function the way we wanted it to, or it malfunctioned, or maybe at a later point we got an idea or something in a way to improve it. So really hats off to Dwayne and those guys to really putting in the extra hours and effort to really do the homework and not just be satisfied with whatever we were able to capture. We definitely were able to kind of, weren't adhering. We didn't have, sort of final deadline that we had to, really deliver on. So it allowed us to really kind of play with what we had available and being able to make something cool.
Yeah, because practical effects work way better to me than the CGI. Because a lot of times people do the CGI, and like you said, money-wise, if they don't have enough money, the CGI looks like shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have the fucking money, then work it out a different way. I mean, including some CGI mixed in with the practical effects or whatever, yeah, no big deal. But if you just do like a blatant CGI and it's just like, well, that's fucking CGI.
Yeah,
It ruins the movie for you, gets you out of the mood.
Yeah, especially when it comes to blood effects too.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see somebody punching something and people will add some fake splatter, and you could just kind of see the difference in lighting too, because that's one thing that makes CGI, when it's done right, there's a lot of money, time, and power that's put into it. It's not somebody just on a couple people on laptops trying to whip something together and getting to a computing threshold that's not allowing them to take it a step further, or even just time alone. So that I think really behooves a small production to work within their strength of knowing that, hey, really low budget, we can't just go and fix these things in post. We got to get it right the first time, so that way we have something that we feel good about, that's cohesive and just feels real, because that's the whole thing with making a movie, is you're trying to fool people into it being real life, something for them to connect to that's could not be faker from reality. How each shot is constructed, and how many people are involved. If you really knew all of that, it really it kind of takes away a little bit of the glitz and glamour of filmmaking, in some ways, but or at least the illusion of a movie. But I think, it really, when you're dealing with a small budget indie film, I think if you really spend the time to, go practical, I think the payoff is just so great, not only just in the final product, but just you and your whole film crew. You feel really good about what you've done, you've accomplished. It's an accomplishment it's a very much a team effort too, which I think is very important.
How long did it take y'all to from start to finish? How long did it take you to get the movie done?
Well, this first was brought to light between Dorian and Brant back in 2010 when they first started saying, "Hey, I've got a script. Hey, you want to work on this?" And then in about 2012, we assembled the six of us as the primary rock crew, and we started brainstorming on how to raise money and what, where this money is going to go to, storyboarding, all that sort of fun stuff. So it was a long process up until about 2015, I think, in October, when we kind of got to a point where, like, all right, pencils down. I think, we can keep working on this and keep editing and doing all that sort of stuff. But there just came to a point where, we had to say, all right, this is the most that we can. This is not necessarily the best that we could do, but it's the most at this point, and it's just becoming tedious, and we needed to get out there. But all things considered, too, that's also with some major breaks in between production, because we ran out of money at certain points. So halfway through, we had to make a trailer, which was the first official trailer that people see. And it doesn't actually show, like I was mentioning earlier, any of the sci-fi nature, because we hadn't shot that yet. So we wanted to make something of interest so that we can start shopping it to a few people to get some more investors, which we did. And from there, we were then able to finance a second half to it. So all in all, it was a couple-year adventure for sure. and then because nobody was getting paid to make this. We weren't able to really hire anybody to really sit down and spend, all right, this month or two, we're sitting down and we're working on this. This is all we need to do. You got your rent covered, you got some food covered, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people were just putting in their extra effort and time into it on their free time. So that's why I have a pretty long list of people who helped out on the sound editing process. That really helped us out in the beginning. But, also at that halfway point, too, we made a pretty big editing change in terms of how we were displaying this narrative, specifically the monologue by Alex, Alex's monologue by Shira Barber. That actually was at one point towards the end, more towards the latter half of the film, where we had this full explanation. It was a one-shot scene, and we felt it was a lot stronger and helped kind of break up these sort of different segments by breaking that up. And so that was a pretty big shift in terms of how we were even just sound editing this, because we had to do it all on laptops. So we had to split up by scenes and sections because there's only so much computing power that our laptops can handle when you have all these different elements going on. So it was a very old school way of putting this together, like as if we were doing this on tape and having to kind of dump down some of these stereo mixes to kind of start being cohesive together. So it was a unique process, unlike any other, I'd have to say. So yeah, this was a couple year process in the making with some downtime in between it. So it wasn't like every day for several years somebody was working on this thing. But yeah, that's it's about as far as my knowledge goes with its overall timeline.
We got to meet y'all at ConNooga, of course. Well, one thing, you got to sit in as a judge for the Scream Queen contest, which that was on last week's podcast. We aired as the Scream Queen contest. So, was you shocked about any of the screams that you heard? Like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
There was some really, there was a couple of really great screams. It was actually, it was pretty difficult to judge. I had never judged something like that before, and there was three of us there. George Demick and Tracy
West.
Yeah, and those guys were great, and we all had our different opinions on.
Yeah, it's there and listen.
Yeah, so it wasn't something typical.
Discussing. Yeah. And I'm like, really are gonna? They're like arguing on, literally like, well, I think she was better. Yeah, but we got this. No, but she had the better scream. No, but her death scene, I'm just like, man, these guys are taking this really seriously. Like, these people are winning a fucking trip to Hawaii. They're getting paid. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Would it be more George? He looked like he was more the...
No, it's just, like, all of them just...
Hey, George put it more on me. He's like, actually, Sam came in with the logic on us.
Yeah, see, Sam was over there like, yeah, but she had a way better. She did, and
it was tough because everyone really brought something unique and different. Especially from the screaming aspect. Because they are, they come up and all of a sudden they scream at you and you're like, whoa, that was intense. And then another one hits you and you're just like, I can't really judge,
Yeah, that's what I was like. How can you judge on the best scream? I'm like, man, they're...
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how we then...
Because they're all really good at
our choices, but I think all of them are really good. In fact, I even whipped out my recorder to record the screams, so hopefully at some point down the line I have a project that I can throw one of those screams into. We'll see what happens.
That'd be awesome to hear. I
was going to ask you, do you carry that recorder with you everywhere? Like, I know because some people are really into sound, and and they'll record different things just because you never know when you're going to use it or if you'll need it.
sometimes if I know what's
I mean, of course, not on like
coming
a
up during
personal.
the day. Yeah, it's a pretty, it's not something that you can just stick in your pocket, but fortunately I do have an iPhone that does record pretty decent sound, that I can at least maybe take a voice memo of it or record it, and maybe later on be like, oh yeah, I tried recording this. It sounds like crap on my phone, but maybe I can try and record it with an actual microphone or something later.
Yeah.
But so that's my saving grace is having smartphones now that you can easily kind of record on the go, and sometimes they even have some insert things that you can plug in, a nicer microphone and such from like Shure or something. Yeah. But it's something I wish I would do maybe a little bit more, but it's also not the most convenient thing, and especially the contraption I have. A lot of people, it's like, is that a thing, a taser or something?
Yeah, it does look like a taser. You be like, he's out on a date. You're like, hold on, honey. I got. This is a great sound. Hold on. You're at a restaurant. You hear somebody chewing. You're like, can I record you chewing? Do you mind?
You chew magnificently.
No, you chew really annoying. This would be perfect for an upcoming movie. That'd be like the rudest thing you could do to someone.
Right. Yeah, when you deal with sound a lot of times, especially like even on set, when you're dealing with like putting a lav on somebody, especially if it's of the opposite sex, you try and be as respectful of people's boundaries as much as possible, even to the point when you're putting a lavalier on somebody. And one thing that I remember from school from one of our teachers is how to properly love somebody without being like inappropriately touching. So you have like, when you put your hand up somebody's shirt, you have the back of your palm to them instead of your fingertips, so it isn't sort of a weird sort of sensation,
Yeah.
So as a sound guy,
that'd be so weird. Like you run your fingertips up and sorry.
Yeah.
Like that'd be creepy as hell.
Yeah, we recently, not too long, or before the Full Moon Horror Festival, I bought 2 of the clip-on mics, or what'd you call them?
Yeah, lavalier.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them, and Carolyn Williams, we interviewed her, and I just said, here, you know how to put one of these on, don't you? I wasn't about to try. I wasn't even going to give it a shot. I was like, no, I'm not going to get in that situation to do that.
It's all just about comfort,
Plus, we wasn't doing video, so I just said, just clip it on your shirt. You ain't got to hide the wire or nothing.
Yeah, no, totally. A lot of times, if there's ways that you can avoid making other people feel uncomfortable, it's always best route to go. Some other productions I've had where a woman had nothing but very tight dress on, and nothing but just a G-string on, and I had to hang this lavalier wireless pack off of her G-string right behind so that the camera couldn't see it. But that was definitely one where we had to go step off.
How'd that hold up? How'd that hold up?
That's what I'm thinking like.
You're like, hey,
that's a good thong.
Yeah, that's a heavy duty thong.
I still think it's hold more than I thought.
The dress did most of the heavy lifting. Fortunately, it was pretty tight.
It's so tight, it just held it on there.
Okay, I'm about to
say, most of the work.
Can you go in the bathroom here and put this ace bandage around you so we can clip this on?
At that point, you got to put on your professional face on. Got to keep it serious. That's something that I also learned by working at a music studio. You deal with so many different levels of talent with people that sometimes, not everyone's coming in there to be, the next pop big hit thing. A lot of times they're coming in to record something just for their own personal sake, and maybe they're not the greatest musician ever, but it's something that they enjoy doing, or maybe it's just something that they're trying to sell the music idea about. It's not necessarily that they're the greatest singer or anything. So a lot of times you have to put on your professional face for some people who aren't that greatly talented, and just try and really, not laugh with them or feel bad or anything. You try and coach people up as best as possible. And, but that was something that I was able to take from the studio into live set, and be able to kind of utilize that, and just being professional. Sometimes it is best if you are working with a seasoned actor or actress, Sometimes you can have them put it on themselves. But more often than not, if they are really serious about what they're doing, they understand what the whole thing's about.
You're not there to, as long as you're not being creepy.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
like if you're
intent is everything.
Yeah, like if you're over there like, damn, you look good in that dress. Like, man, wow, yeah, you look fine. Then you're like trying to put this thing on, and she's gonna be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, excuse me while I put my hand up your shirt
man,
here.
This is great. I like doing this.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to touch your boob.
Yeah.
You find a way to keep it lighthearted.
Yeah, that's
too,
what I mean. Just
I asked me over
really
everybody stretching her shirt all out, trying to avoid touching anything.
Yeah, that'd be a thing. Like you're stretching the dress out. She's pulling her.
What are you doing? I'm trying not to touch you. Anyway.
But yeah, for the
just
most
trying
part,
to make this
when
as
you're on set,
awkward as
people are
fucking
pretty
possible.
professional.
Yeah. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we in talks with CreepyCon to get y'all out there.
And it is just a horror festival.
Yeah, it's straight horror. So that
Yeah.
And hopefully, if they get to screen your movie, it'll be during the day, and not like in 12 a.m.
Yeah, I think.
Well, that was for ConNooga's sake. That was just something new that they were trying to see how it worked, and it didn't work that well. So, like they said, they're going to change that to like 9 p.m. if they ever screen a movie.
We're fine always being guinea pigs, and we've had so many different experiences. Some great, some not so great, but that's just the whole part of it. We were just grateful to be able to get it in front of more people. We certainly were able to hand out a ton of flyers, so people might have had some other plans that they wanted to see some of their other fellow cosplayers and have a good time.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big deal, but either way, they still got a card, and hopefully at some point they'll go and check it out. But
hopefully,
I hope so.
All y'all streaming service or maybe even physical DVDs sold. So
for sure.
Well, hell yeah! Hopefully, like I said, we get to see you. Hey, I want to go ahead and invite you. Have you been hearing about the Death House movie?
No. What's this about?
Death House. It's got a lot of the horror icons in it, like Kane Hodder,
Bill Moseley, Ari Mahaloff, right?
Dee Wallace, Felissa Rose.
Okay.
Sid Haig.
It's a Gunnar Hansen movie. Gunnar Hansen started writing it before he passed, and Harrison Smith took it over and finished writing it. But it's going to have a national premiere at the Opry March 16th. So we're making kind of an event out of it, and we're trying to get as many people there as possible. So
is that Nashville?
Yeah, it's in Nashville, Opry Mills.
Okay, well, you guys know, I'm one of the few Chicago rock people who are now transplanted in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's why I was like, hell, man, if you don't want to drive, if you ain't got no one to go with, hell, you can jump in the car with us and ride down there.
That sounds good. I'll definitely have to hit you guys up about that one.
Because as far as we know, I'm going to cut this out just in case. Hell, you just ride on our coattail and we can get you in for free.
All right, sounds good.
But, hell yeah, well, just let us know, and we appreciate you coming on. We're going to wrap it up here because I got to edit this tonight and get it over to somebody else to be put on the podcast or on their radio show. So,
all right, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, man,
no, you're good. No, I was just.
Is there any way that people can get in contact with you, or do you want to share any of that, or?
I'm.
Or just...
so most of my Twitter and all that stuff is under Sam Fell, but he's okay.
Okay. We just talked about that. Oh my god, we talked about that earlier. He's like,
a lot of people are like, Sam Fell, but the sock? Is one that I get a lot. So Sam Fell, but he's okay. That's an old...
that's funny.
Going back to grade school, always heard that one for a long time.
Well,
hey, Sam Fell, can you come over? And, is he all right?
That's funny. Yeah, I told Jim Jam, I was like, I was going to make a joke about that, but then I didn't want to be that cheesy when we did the opening, when we did the intro, because I was like, yeah, we got Sam Fell on today, and then I was just going to be like, he didn't really fall, but I was like, I'm not going to.
He's okay though.
I'm not going to do it like that. I'm not going to treat him like
that. It's all good.
I'm
Funny enough, though, on IMDb, I found out that there's actually another Sam Fell filmmaker. He's a British guy, a director. I think he did like some sort of animated, few animated productions, like Pixar-ish type deals, like Ratatouille or something. But actually, at one point, he ended up with a few of my sound credits.
Oh, really? Wow.
So yeah, apparently there's a lot of Sam Fells out there. I didn't know. Thought it was
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
But...
You be what? No, I was gonna be like, what if his name was Richard Fell? But
Dick Fell.
Yeah, Dick Fell.
My parents always teased me. They said, for a long time we were thinking about either calling you Tripped In if you're a boy or Slipped In if you're a girl.
Oh my God, Fell. Dude.
And then middle name Shitten, Tripped In, Shitten, Fell.
Tripped and shit and fell. That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
School would have been a nightmare for you.
Oh my goodness! I tell you, I firmly believe, what you name your child is very formidable about how they're going to turn out. I've been watching the NFL Combine and look at some of these guys' names, and you're just like, yeah, that's a football player's name. Like, that kind of was just kind of destined from birth, to be somebody who's gonna hit you right in the face or something,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, Sam.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, you guys. We'll have to do this again.
Sweet.
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And you guys said when it
March 16th.
March 16th?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll have more information tomorrow, hopefully, from the distributor of Death House. So I'll let you know. Yeah. So like I said, appreciate you coming on, and we'll be in touch.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have a good one.
See you, bro.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right, guys, that was Sam Fell.
He's okay though.
But he's okay. We hope you guys like that. I mean, it's a different take on movies and how movies are made, from a different perspective as a sound guy. We try to do something a little different, right, Jim Jam? Instead of doing the same, like, director, actor. Let's hear what the sound guy says. How does that work in a movie? And so, it was different. And we hope you enjoyed it, because I had a really good time talking to him, and I had a really good time listening to everything that he had to say about how, the movie worked and how, the part of the sound aspect of it. Maybe I'm a little bit more nerdy, but whatever.
You're white and nerdy?
White and nerdy. I'm nerdy. No.
Yeah. Please, like you were saying, you hear this, come out March 16th.
Yes, we need a big showing.
We want
buy your tickets online if possible when it comes on sale through Fandango or whatever, and try to get this show sold out.
Yes, let's sell out the Nashville premiere, damn it.
Yes, let's do it. Let's show everyone that Nashville was a place that movies need to come to as well.
Hell yeah. So yeah, we appreciate you listening, supporting us.
Make sure to check this out on Scurryface Radio, scurryface.com, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Blueberry, and SoundCloud. Podbean as well. So we appreciate you guys, and
that's all we got. We out.
Peace.
Peace.